So Silksong still isn't out, but that's okay because we have the next best thing, Pale Court. This is a fan-made DLC that adds new bosses, mostly themed around the 5 Great Knights of Hallownest. This is an incredible piece of content, and it legitimately feels like Team Cherry themselves worked on it, as it feels very official and high quality. Anyway, so why am I telling you all this? Well, it just so happens to include 5 new charms. And you know what that means, it's time to do a deep dive on them. To gain access to these charms, just make sure you've beaten the dream version of Dung Defender, who is located right here. Now, let's jump into it. King's Honor. This charm costs 1 notch and creates a damaging aura around the knight, which can spread between enemies. King's Honor can be obtained by defeating Isma in Isma's Grove. Once Isma is defeated, the Defender's Crest will be transformed into King's Honor. King's Honor is superior to Defender's Crest in almost every way. For starters, the clouds will take on a new silver glow, and spawn at a much faster rate of 0.5 seconds, 33% more often than Defender's Crest did. On top of all this, the cloud itself is also a lot larger, making it more likely to damage enemies. Every 0.3 seconds after the initial spawn, a tick of 2 damage is dealt while they're within the area, which is a 100% damage increase from Defender's Crest. Here comes the crazy part though. Enemies that take damage, even a single tick, will become infected and generate their own death cloud around them. This cloud has the exact same properties as the clouds that spawn on the knight, however, since it's continually spawning on them, there's no escape from the damage. That's the general gist of how it works, but it wouldn't be a charm deep dive video without hyper-analysing it and delving into the nitty-gritty. To demonstrate exactly how King's Honor works, we're gonna watch this footage at 10% speed, and match it up to a graph I've made with each bit of damage. Before we get into that, however, let's get down the basic damage characteristics of a single cloud. Clouds persist for 1.1 seconds before disappearing. In this time, they can tick for a maximum of 3 times, dealing 2 damage per tick, once every 0.3 seconds, for a total of 6 damage. The instant a cloud spawns, however, it doesn't tick. Only after existing for 0.3 seconds does the first tick of damage occur. Now that we know how those mechanics work, let's follow the timeline of our King's Honor cloud. We start the clock the instant the cloud spawns over our target. As we know from above, nothing happens for the first 0.3 seconds. As expected, we see the first tick land at the 0.3 second mark. Although it's hard to see, a new cloud is now spawned around our enemy. Again, no damage rolls in as this new cloud also needs the 0.3 seconds to arm. Another 0.3 seconds later, we get a double tick for 4 damage. This is a combination of our original cloud as well as the new cloud ticking at the same time. Now, you'd expect one more tick after this, as each cloud can tick 3 times before vanishing. However, for whatever reason, the final tick of the original cloud in my testing never seems to happen, and the new cloud around the enemy takes over from here on out. This ticks a further 2 times, both 0.3 seconds apart, again, as expected, and since now it's done its 3 ticks, you think this would be over, right? But this isn't the case, because I haven't told you something. The second this new cloud around the enemy dealt its damage on that double tick, we started a chain reaction. Every 0.75 seconds, we're going to see a tick of damage from a new cloud. This will repeat 5 times until falling off, in which case there will be a brief 0.25 second window until it can be reinfected, starting the whole cycle again. Overall, this results in 34 damage from this single cloud, at least in a perfect scenario with the stationary enemy. And this whole cycle lasts 4.2 seconds. If 2 or more enemies are standing close enough together, they'll take damage from both clouds, and as demonstrated here, this can lead to them infinitely re-triggering each other. To get this to occur, the enemies need to have been infected at staggered times. This is to ensure there's still a cloud present to deal damage, and therefore re-trigger the cycle after the immunity phase has ended. In practice though, it's extremely difficult to get this to happen. Things get a bit strange versus enemies that vanish during fights. Some enemies, such as Null Eyes, the effect continues as normal when she blinks. Others, like Nightmare King Grim and Mantis Lords, will reappear without the effect, but regain it after a short delay, continuing roughly from where it would have been up to. If you think back to the Defender's Crest episode, you may recall we did a DPS test against Morlock, just to see how much damage Defender Crest could do in the absolute best case scenario. Well, here we did the exact same test again, this time with King's Honor. There we are, 135 damage dealt in 7.9 seconds. That works out to 17.02 damage per second, nearly 3.5 times higher than Defender's Crest. While the damage per tick is only twice as high, a combination of faster cloud generation and the ability for it to create another on the enemy itself skyrockets the amount of damage ticks. This averages out to 8.6 ticks of damage every second. Now obviously in real gameplay, this number's going to be a lot lower. However, since a damage cloud now spawns from enemies and sticks to them, it means the charm's going to be far better at dealing consistent damage, even on higher mobility enemies. While Defender's Crest was one of, if not the worst one-notch charm in the game, King's Honor might very well have taken the place as the best one-notch charm in the game. Instead of just being a niche charm that was only usable in extremely specific situations, looking at you, Lost Ken, you can now look to it for a super cheap damage boost for almost any boss, and it excels even further if there are smaller enemies involved in the fight. Being a direct upgrade of Defender's Crest, you can expect it to do everything old Defender's Crest did. This includes giving a discount from Leg Eater, causing some characters to say unique dialogue, and so on. But there is some new dialogue when speaking to the White Lady with it equipped, which I'll show you now. So obviously if you'd like to discover it yourself, skip this next part. King's Honor Special Interactions. When combining King's Honor and the Spore Shroom will take on a silver appearance and deal a total of 66 damage over 4.1 seconds. Just like all instances of King's Honor damage, this will also spawn a cloud on any affected enemy that can in turn spread it to other enemies nearby. This component deals a total of 26 damage, and the remaining 40 will be dealt by the original Spore Shroom cloud and requires enemies to be within the area to deal its damage. Basically, this is the original Spore Shroom Defender's Crest combo, with an extra 26 damage that has a chance to spread. Just like the original, adding Deep Focus to the mix significantly increases the size of the initial Spore Cloud. And last of all, as a fun little fact, the other two special charm interactions we're about to talk about uses this ability as a base, meaning all cloud damage and effects will be identical to this one. When combining King's Honor and Glowing Womb, hatchlings will deal 4 impact damage and leave a damaging cloud, dealing 66 damage over 4.1 seconds. As I mentioned, this cloud has the exact same properties as the Spore Shroom combo, just with the impact damage added. Funny enough, this is probably the biggest difference versus Defender's Crest. The old combo used to actually make hatchlings weaker, as it moves some of the base damage to a cloud which would rarely hit. But even if we pretended all 9 damage used to land, this version does nearly 8 times more, 7.77 to be precise, and makes Glowing Womb hatchlings absolutely deadly, which is good news if you enjoyed summon builds. Getting down to 1 health with Abyssal Bloom, which we'll get to that charm in episode 5, doubles the impact damage to 8. Fury of the Fallen will of course add 5 flat impact damage when you're low. At the time of writing this, Fury of the Fallen is bugged and doesn't trigger with this combination. However, it's fair to assume once fixed, this will stack with Abyssal Bloom to deal somewhere between 13 and 18 impact damage, as well as the damage you get from the cloud itself. Combining King's Honor and Fluke Nest will cause 1 giant fluke to launch instead of the swarm. This deals 3 impact damage before exploding into a damaging cloud, dealing 40 damage over 4.1 seconds, and afflicting any enemy hit by the cloud for another 26 damage, for a total of 69 damage. Nice. Assuming every tick of damage lands, this finally beats out the smaller cluster of flukes by 5 damage. Although, unlike the normal fluke spell, it still receives no benefit from Shaman Stone, in which case the normal flukes will deal 11 more damage if all hit. I'd like to thank the creator of this charm, Who Knows. A lot of time and effort goes into making these videos, and even something that looks pretty simple like this charm takes literal days of testing. Who was nice enough to give me insight on how this charm functioned, as well as point me in the right direction when I was lost, shaving hours and hours of testing out of the process, and he certainly lived up to his name. He did know. Which I'm very thankful for. Speaking of, if you enjoyed this video or learned a few things, consider subscribing and giving the video a like to help it out with the algorithm. The next episode will be taking a look at the next Pale Court charm, Mark of Purity, which very well may be my new favourite charm in the whole game. So stay tuned for that. Anyway, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.